Hi, this is JP Morgan with Lars Lindstrom. Lars works with me as a DP. We work together on a lot of our projects. Today we're going to do something different. We're going to see if you like it, if it's something worth us doing in the future, but we're just going to talk about what we think is going on in the industry. Me as a really old guy and Lars as a really young guy, and we're going to kind of get those two perspectives. So, I'm not as old as I look. I guess for me, this is an opportunity for the two of us, because when we sit together, we're on shoots and that, we start talking about, well, what's going on in the industry? What's happening? You know, what are the interesting things that are going on? And it's always a fun conversation for me. I walk away learning a lot from the other guys that are with me on the crew. So I'm hoping we can get a bit of that flavor. So let's start with what do we think is interesting in the last month. I just got back from photoplus, so I got some thoughts from that. You're obviously, Lars is very connected to the video and film as a DP world. I'm kind of more photography, crossover video, so I have kind of that perspective. So we'll just see where that takes us. So.
Sure. One thing that I think would be good to talk about is this new SanDisk card that's coming out. It's called CFast 2.0. So instead of compact flash, I think they're aiming more towards a compact fast, kind of a title for it.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be released early next year. I think there's actually some places that are starting to sell pre-order right now. Some very select places. But basically, you've got just a compact flash card. You've got a 60 gig, 120 gig, and a 256, I think, are coming out. That can record, it can write 350 megabytes a second, transfer 450 megabytes a second, which is...
That's astounding.
It's the fastest card that exists.
So when are you going to use that, though? I mean, I'm with my point and shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, those are going to be expensive cards, so what's the application?
So if you're thinking, oh, well, would it be an advantage to my 5D Mark III or my D3? Probably not. Yeah. You know, those cameras still have, I think, about a 50 megabyte per second cap, and we've got SanDisk, we've got other compact flash cards that can do 95, and that's fast, but it's kind of the standard these days if you're doing DSLR video. Or even if you're shooting on like a C300 or some other compact flash camera.
How about the 1DC, which is a 4K camera?
Right. See, that's an application where you start to wonder if maybe a 350 megabyte per second card would be an advantage, because that's a 4K camera. And I think if you're doing still photography, how many frames a second can that do? Because it's
the 1DX will do 12 in RAW, 12 frames a second in RAW, which is their fastest camera right now. It just came out, the 1DX.
So if you start to do the math there, each frame is probably about 25 to 30 megabytes if you're doing still photography.
Yeah.
So if you start to do 12 of those, you're looking at
bursts.
about 350 megabytes per second, and you need a card that can keep up with that. So before, you had cards that would just, you'd shoot 12 frames and it would be processing for a few seconds.
Oh, it's just painful.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to be out there shooting as fast as you can. So this is really aimed at very, very high-end professional video and photo markets.
So we're heading that way.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just, it was like we're at the era we're on the dawn of 4K. 4K TVs will be on the market this year in a much stronger way than they were last year. So everything's going to have to eventually get shot in 4K, which is the way the market just gets us all to buy new cameras, because the Mark III is not going to be good enough because it's 2K. You're going to have to go to the 1DC. You're going to have to go to a platform that's going to deliver on that 4K. YouTube will go 4K eventually.
YouTube is 4K.
Is it really?
It is.
Well, of course they are.
Yeah, YouTube's been 4K for a long time, which didn't really make too much sense to me because, you have to have... 4K is a really, really new, fascinating market for consumers. It's been in the you can go to a theater and you can see movies in 4K. You can do that right now. But even if you buy one of those new Sony 4K TVs, at the moment, Blu-ray isn't quite authored for 4K. They're writing an H.265 codec, which is the same language as Blu-ray. But it doesn't exist yet. So for right now, 4K is just kind of like this interesting thing that people don't really know what to do with.
But it goes to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 4K.
It's 4K.
And there's not enough content out there. The market isn't ready for it. But by next Christmas, we'll see a big shift. We'll see that change.
Yeah. So what that means with data, though, is being able to write fast enough. That's why I'm pretty excited about this new SanDisk card coming out. The only camera that has announced that they will be using this card so far is the new camera from Arri, the Arri Mira. So it's basically an Alexa in a more documentary or TV style camera.
So a smaller platform.
A little smaller platform, not quite the professional tools that the Alexa has. As far as film, it's geared more towards TV, commercial, and documentary.
Okay.
But I mean, they're boasting that these cards are going to be able to write Apple ProRes 444, which is very high quality.
High quality, yeah.
At 220 frames a second.
That's incredible. Is it the same size as Compact Flash?
Same size.
Same size. So you can use this card in your Mark III.
You can use it in the Mark III.
Okay, well that's good. At least they're not changing that.
The format.
Yeah, that format would be awful if they changed it. So, but where is the bottleneck? What is the issue? I mean,
For right now, I think the biggest bottleneck isn't going to be in your capture or transfer on the card itself, because you've got USB 3, which is extremely fast. You've got these cards, which are lightning fast. The biggest bottleneck in my mind is still going to be computer hard drives. For some reason, I mean, unless you've got a solid-state drive that's just up to date with, the best and fastest and most expensive technology, you've got spinning drives still. And, a drive that spins at 7,200 RPMs doesn't stand a chance against something like this.
no. The SSD though is. I mean, a lot of people are taking their old Macs, putting an SSD drive in it, and you've got a much higher performance, almost out of the box.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 2 or 3 times better, absolutely.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, even those can't capture as fast as these cards can.
It's always, you get things to the point. I always talk about this with regards to what we shoot. 18 megapixel, 35 megapixel. I mean, and then you throw it on the internet. Was it 4 megapixels? I mean, it's
less than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. So it's just a matter of where your delivery. What are you going to use it for? If you're shooting for stuff, and eventually we'll get there, where televisions will need it, and all the other hard drives, everything's got to catch up. It's got to have the ability to edit and to. I mean, think about editing. That's another huge issue. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I shoot cinematography, like you were saying, I shoot with a Red Epic, and that's a 5K format camera. So I'm shooting most of my stuff in 4 or 5K, which is an enormous amount of data.
Yeah.
It's raw too. So there are compression ratios, but I mean, and then like you said, we're boiling that down to internet.
Yeah, boiling that right back to the internet.
Oh yeah,
so.
Everything I export is 1920 by 1080.
Exactly.
So
the delivery is going to get better. The internet's going to get better. You're going to have the options. They're going to start to open up eventually. All right. Well, let's talk about a couple other things. I was at photoplus. I thought the most interesting thing at photoplus was definitely the Sony 7 series cameras, which are a mirrorless camera. So very small platforms, kind of like the old Leicas. You have a very small platform. You have small lenses because of the mirrorless. It really makes that whole thing compact. It's almost small enough that I can put it in my pocket, but it's still a full-frame sensor. So you have that ability to get a really good image, an image that you can sell to Getty stock, which has always been the issue for me. I mean, I get some of these small. I had a small Leica at one time. I was taking a lot of images with, but it wouldn't sell on Getty. The quality wasn't there. But this is a full-frame sensor. They have both a sport version and kind of a street version. The street version is not quite as large quality, and frame rate's not as fast. So
who do you think the market is for a camera like this?
This is people who are walk-around shooters that want a camera that they're going to carry with them. They always say the best camera that you have is the one that's with you. It doesn't matter how great your Red Epic is. When something's happening in front of you, if you don't have it, you don't get the shot. So the camera you're going to carry is the one that's the most important. And it's well, it depends on what you're doing, I guess. But if you're going to be out and shooting and want to have something with you and capture anywhere you go, this is a great pocket camera.
Yeah.
And now I know Sony will say, no, this is going to compete with the Mark III, and it's I had someone ask on the blog about that. Well, what about why don't you use these kind of mirrorless cameras? They're smaller. You can take them on location with you easier. And well, there's some capabilities there that I think are challenging. One, I love the glass. That you can get. Although you can adapt these to anything, quite frankly. Yeah. They have an adapter that you can put any lens series on them.
And Sony has some great connections with Zeiss. So if you really wanted to, you could put some Zeiss glass on.
You could absolutely do that, which would be a great look. But I think it's just the smallness of the platform, the ease of carrying it, and they had some things built into that camera that, for me, as my eyes get older, they had peaking built into the small monitor on the back
for video capabilities.
They also, when you would click on the camera to pre-focus, in video, it jumps in times
Zooms
10,
in. Oh.
focus, and when you go to take, it goes back, it jumps back out. So you can turn that on or off, but I thought that was interesting. If you get used to it, that was an interesting feature.
See, that's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy with this Canon line of cinema cameras, because it would be a simple matter of writing a couple of code lines in their software to give you that capability of jumping in like that. So, you know, but they don't. They say, well, you know, if you want that capability to be able to zoom in while you're recording, you've got to get our CE300, which is a $14,000 cinema camera, you know, and at that point you're going, I don't know if I see the point.
Well, they're trying to justify both those lines of cameras. They're trying to keep them in a certain category, and they don't want. But you know, that's what the free market system does. Sony's going to put pressure on them.
Yeah.
You know, Nikon's putting pressure on them. Canon's going to have to make some decisions about those kinds of things. You know, we'll see the next generation, the Mark IV or whatever, will have a lot of that kind of stuff in it, I think.
Yeah.
So. I saw a very cool piece of equipment at photoplus from Innovative. It's basically a cart. You know, we've used all the mag liners forever, you know, and have your shelves and all kinds of stuff on it. This is a mag liner that you break it down into a box like this.
Really?
The wheels and everything. You throw it on the airplane and it flies with you. And it was lightweight, great wheels on it. It collapses. You can break it, put it back together, and you got a great platform to be able to use on location.
Wow.
I thought those were very cool.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we'll work with them in the future and be able to use that on set. So.
Oh man, because that's one of the biggest issues flying. You know, when I did a production in Oregon, and we could have used a mag liner so badly, you know, but we flew, and of course it was a low budget production, and there were limitations on what we could bring, and the crew was very minimal. But I got out there, and I was, you know, it was like, okay, so where do I set up camera? On the ground in the forest? You know, like,
exactly.
what do you want me to do here? And so I brought a tarp. And
that's what I was doing. It's a blue tarp.
Yeah, I brought a white tarp so it could double as a bounce. That's how low budget production this was.
Hang that up in the trees.
Exactly.
We're gonna get a bounce.
It was my
just throw your camera equipment on the ground.
It was my raincoat. It was my bounce, and it was my ground cloth so I could build camera. Yeah, but no, that sounds like a really effective tool, especially if you can fly with it, collapse and fly.
Well, it does. It collapses down, goes in a small case, and it goes on. It's not overweight. So.
Awesome.
We've talked about that just as a reminder to everyone when you fly, you know, create a media badge, you know, and make sure when you book your tickets that you tell them that you're media, and that way you can go up to 90 pounds per bag and you don't get hit for extra baggage on it, and it really helps. Did you do that when you...
I did. And you don't even, I mean, you can basically fake it till you make it with this one. You know, as long as you have anything that looks somewhat official, you can get away with it, because, I mean, for me, I just created something called Lars Lindstrom Productions. You know, it's like, that's not real. It's not a real thing. But you throw it in a little plastic badge.
Exactly.
And you pull it out of your bag and say, oh, I'm media. And they go, oh, a media rate. And most airlines will have one immediately, and they'll just charge you for a 50-pound bag.
Yeah. I mean, there is no agency out there that polices media badges. You know, it's like if you make a media badge, if you have a business card that backs it up as well, I mean, you're pretty much in. And they see the equipment. You know, if it's full of Beanie Babies, they're probably going to go, you know, who are you?
Where did that come from?
Who even knows what Beanie Babies are? See how old I am. That was photoplus. I mean, there were a lot of great things there. I learned some great things about marketing. You know, one thing I will mention about websites that I thought was interesting for photographers. Photographers were all about white space on the internet and on their web pages. You know, the landing page would have this image with lots of white space. Then you would go into the site. That's changed completely. Big images fill the whole frame when you come onto your landing pages. And you go to the thumbnails, simple thumbnails, quickly go through them, be able to see the images quickly. It really is now about ease of use, so you can see things quickly, and big, powerful images. Not a lot of this white space. So you can check out stuff out there, like Chase Jarvis's site is, he's a guy who knows what's going on. Look at the way his site is. The landing page really emphasizes that. Does a great job. So.
And in my mind, that's kind of what they're built for. You know, I mean, there is something elegant, sure, about the old format, but if you're a photographer and you want to display your work, make it full screen. Make it as big as possible. So
what is a video? I mean, I'm frustrated, as you've expressed, about video and presenting that in the templates that are out there right now from a lot of these major companies.
You know, because I have a couple WordPress sites, and I can't find any good template for video, and that's something that's frustrating to me, because I just want, you know, basically that same format. I want a full screen video page.
Well, I mean, there are some great. I mean, we've worked with Zenfolio, which is excellent. Squarespace is a company that we have done some work with, and they have excellent templates, and they are now doing a lot more video on there. So those are good ones to look at. Certainly, Zenfolio has been excellent from a delivery standpoint, and Squarespace we're just starting to work with. We'll see how that goes, but I think they have very similar kinds of capabilities. So.
Well, I mean, there is, for me, I'm very excited about the Area Mirror.
I'm sure. That's a great camera.
You know, I'm very tempted to just make it happen and get one.
Are you really?
I am.
So what's the price point?
It's about 35 or 40,000. Yeah, I know. So it's definitely not a camera for your, you know, average.
I won't buy this car. I'll just get this camera.
Exactly.
I can always ride a bike.
Yeah. Well, you know, in my mind, and here's how I look at it. Here's how I justify it. A car is never going to earn me money.
That's true.
You know? It's just it won't. And a good camera like this, I mean, the Area Alexa has basically revolutionized the digital camera system. I mean, there was Red, and they did a phenomenal job. I shoot Red. I love Red. But there is something to be said about the quality of skin tones that you get with that Area Alexa sensor. So that same sensor is going to be inside this camera. And it's a lighter weight camera. It's got direct XLR inputs. It's completely adjustable, so you can slide it back on your shoulder. You can adjust your eyepiece. It's got a flip-out LCD screen. So they're kind of merging both the Area Alexa world and like kind of the Canon or Sony cinema camera world together into one platform. Plus, it's going to do 220 frames a second at full 444 ProRes. I mean, in my mind, what's there not to love about this camera?
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But I mean, what can you get a rental rate for something like that? If it's going to make you money, I mean, you can't use that enough unless you're shooting every day.
Yeah.
You know, you got to rent that thing out.
That's going to depend on the market a little bit. My guess is anywhere from $800 to $1,200 a day.
So in that category, I mean, if you rent it out in the life of the camera, you know, in a year, if you rent it out 10, 15 times, you know, that's pretty significant.
Which would be a failure in my mind.
Really?
If you only rent it out 10, 15 times, yeah, absolutely.
You know, really these things come down to, it's about business. You know, for Lars, he's in that industry, he runs in those circles, he has the market there to be able to rent it to other people. If you don't, you're buying a camera and you're standing there with a big investment with no way to get it out there, and that's a foolish decision, it really is. I mean, you make that decision when you have an outlet, you have a way to sell it, a way to be able to get it out there and have it make money for you. You know, we also get worried about, oh, I don't want to let anybody know what we're doing. Really, it's a huge world out there, you know?
Especially right now. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's so many people and so many applications.
You type anything on YouTube and get an answer to anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this has been JP Morgan and Lars Lindstrom, really just talking about the things that we think are interesting in the market. We'll try to do this once a month and give you an update, just the things that we've seen in the past month, the things that we think are interesting. I hope you find this interesting. Let us know. If you don't, we won't do it. If you do, we'll do it again. If you think it'd be better if just Lars did it, forget you. But give us an idea of what you thought of this, if you think it was valuable. Anything we think is interesting, anything you would like to hear about, we'll try to get it into your hands. So keep those cameras rolling, keep on clicking. I say that all the time. It's like embarrassing.
It's your thing, though.
It is my thing.
It's like a brand.
That's true.
It's an image.
An image? Is it a good image?
It's a good image.
Okay. I'm going to stick with it. Keep those cameras rolling. Keep on clicking.